Okay, let's set the scene. Babylon, June 323 BC. It's unbelievably hot, suffocating heat. And in the middle of it all, Alexander the Great. He's dying. Not from some epic battle wound, but a fever, the conqueror of the known world, taken out by disease.
And the immediate thing isn't even why he's dying, though those rumors started instantly, didn't they?
Wow.
Poison, Antipater's family. But the real terrifying question is, what happens now? The linchpin is gone.
Right. The entire massive structure he built relied solely on his will, his charisma, and suddenly, poof, there's this immense, frightening vacuum. No clear successor, no plan, just uncertainty.
Exactly. And you have this incredibly dramatic deathbed scene described. Alexander, apparently too weak to speak properly, takes off his signet ring, the symbol of everything.
The ultimate symbol of imperial power.
He presses it into the hand of Perdiccas, his senior commander. Now, was that appointing a regent? Or just, practicalities, like you handle the funeral arrangements? Massively unclear.
And then comes the line, maybe apocryphal, maybe not, but it defined everything that followed. They ask him, to whom do you leave your kingdom?
And he whispers, toi katistoi, to the strongest.
Which, in retrospect, sounds less like a plan and more like firing the starting gun on a 40-year civil war. A total bloodbath, basically.
It absolutely was. An invitation for every single one of his hyper-ambitious, battle-hardened generals to prove they were the strongest. And that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, our mission here is to guide you through this incredibly dense, brutal period. We're talking 40 years of high-stakes warfare, political backstabbing on an epic scale, military genius, shocking betrayals. It's intense.
We're unpacking how these successors, the Diadochi, took Alexander's dream and just ripped it to shreds. But, and this is the kicker, in doing so, they accidentally forged something entirely new, the Hellenistic world, a foundational civilization born from chaos.
So let's zoom in on that moment. Alexander dies. His inner circle, the heteroi, his trusted companions, they don't pause for breath. They instantly become the Diadochi, the successors.
And you got to understand who these guys were. These weren't second-tier commanders. These were men who'd fought alongside Alexander for, 20 years. They knew warfare, logistics, politics, brutality, inside and out. They'd conquered the known world.
They saw themselves as Alexander's peers, didn't they? Just maybe without the fancy bloodline. Supreme confidence barely covers it.
Oh, absolutely. Dangerously ambitious, incredibly wealthy from conquest. It wasn't a council meeting. It was a cage match waiting to happen, everyone eyeing everyone else.
Okay, we need to meet the main contenders. Their personalities, their specific goals really shaped the whole conflict. Let's start with the guy holding the ring. Perdiccas.
Right, Perdiccas, commander of the elite companion cavalry. Top dog, militarily speaking, after Alexander. He has the ring he claims Alexander pointed to him, more or less.
What his ambition is.
Imperial unity, but under his control. He sees himself as the natural regent for Alexander's unborn child. He wants to hold the whole thing together, with him firmly at the helm. He's capable, maybe a bit arrogant, but definitely aiming for the top job by proxy.
Okay, then contrasting that, you've got Ptolemy, son of Lagus, childhood friend of Alexander's, known for being sharp, capable, and maybe a bit more cautious.
Cautious is a good word. Pragmatic. Ptolemy looked at this sprawling empire, Greece, Persia, India, Egypt, and thought, this is impossible to hold together. He wasn't wrong.
So what did he want?
Egypt. Simple as that. Ancient, rich, defensible with the Nile Delta and deserts. He figured, let the others fight over the messy bits. I'll take the crown jewel and build something lasting. Smart money, arguably.
Then there's the old guard. Antigonus Monophalmus. Antigonus the One-Eyed. Sounds intimidating.
He was intimidating. Physically imposing, nearly 60, a veteran from Philip II's time, Alexander's father, a strategic heavyweight.
And his ambition, was it like Perdiccas's unity?
Sort of, but different. He also wanted reunification, but not as some regent. He wanted the whole empire under the name Antigonus, and his confidence, off the charts. Up to this point, the man had literally never lost a major battle. Think about that.
Wow. Okay. Then we have Cassander, son of Antipater, the regent Alexander left back in Macedon.
Yeah.
And apparently he had serious issues with Alexander.
Oh, yeah. Deep personal animosity. There are stories of Alexander humiliating him publicly. Cassander wasn't really gunning for the whole empire like Antigonus. His focus was much narrower, much more visceral.
Which was?
Macedon itself, the ancestral throne. He wanted the homeland, and he knew, probably correctly, that he couldn't truly hold it securely as long as anyone with Alexander's blood was still alive. This makes him incredibly ruthless later on.
Chilling. Okay, finally, the dark horse, Seleucus, son of Antiochus,
Yeah.
commander of the elite infantry, the Hypaspestai, or Silver Shields.
Yeah, Seleucus starts off seeming like a secondary figure, but he's incredibly resilient, physically tough, and proves to have this vast long-term vision. And interestingly, unlike many others who ditched their Persian wives, Seleucus kept his Sogdian wife, Apama.
So he actually bought into Alexander's multicultural idea.
It seems so, yeah, more than most. His ambition wasn't immediately obvious, but it turns out to be absolutely enormous, stretching way out east.
Okay, so you've got these massive egos, all armed to the teeth, all in Babylon. The explosion was immediate, right? The Babylon Gambit.
And instantaneously. The first big council meeting descends into near civil war.
Right.
Right there. The issue. Succession, obviously. Who rules?
And it splits along clear lines, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You have the traditionalist infantry phalanx, the backbone of the army. They're suspicious of Alexander's Persian ways, his whole deification thing. They want a proper Macedonian king. So they champion Alexander's half-brother Aridaeus, who was, well, mentally unfit. They crown him King Philip III anyway.
Representing the sort of conservative back-to-basics faction.
Exactly. But then you have the cavalry aristocracy, the top generals led by Perdiccas. They say, hold on, Roxana, Alexander's wife is pregnant. Let's wait. If it's a son, he's the heir. And guess who gets to be regent for the next 18 years?
Perdiccas.
Perdiccas. So it's tradition versus imperial ambition, xenophobia versus, well, power politics.
They manage a shaky compromise. Joint rule.
Yeah, joint kingship between Philip Aridaeus and the baby, who turns out to be Alexander IV. And Perdiccas is named regent over both. But Perdiccas knew the infantry faction led by this guy Meleager was still a threat. They didn't trust him.
So he deals with it brutally.
Oh, unbelievably brutal. A masterclass in political terror, really. He organizes what everyone thinks is a military review, a purification ceremony. He lures Meleager and about 300 of his key supporters, officers, infantry leaders into a trap.
Yeah.
Has them executed right there in front of the army. Some sources say they were trampled by war elephants, just pulverized.
Jesus, that's not just removing opponents, that's sending a message.
A crystal clear, terrifying message. Dissent will not be tolerated. Power flows from the guy willing to do this. Perdiccas cemented his authority through sheer, calculated violence.
Okay, so Perdiccas has literally crushed the opposition.
Yeah.
What's his next move to solidify his position as the main man?
Legitimacy. He needs more than just fear. He needs the ultimate symbol. And that symbol is Alexander's body.
The corpse itself becomes a political asset.
Oh, hugely. More than just an asset. It's like a sacred talisman. There was this prophecy, you see, that the land where Alexander was buried would be happy, prosperous, invincible, basically blessed forever.
So whoever controls the body controls that divine blessing, that legitimacy.
Precisely. Perdiccas' plan is clear. Transport the body back to the traditional royal tombs in Macedon, probably marry Alexander's sister, Cleopatra, who's available, and use the whole procession and the interment to basically transition from regent to king. The body is the key.
And he doesn't just plan a simple coffin, does he? The funeral carriage, the catafalque. The descriptions are insane.
Absolutely wild. It took apparently 2 years to build. We're talking a colossal structure, like a mobile temple, dripping with gold, marble, ivory, statues, paintings, almost 40 feet high. It's designed to be this overwhelming spectacle of divine right and imperial power moving across the land.
A rolling propaganda piece.
Exactly, and it shows the resources Perdiccas still commanded. But as this magnificent, slow-moving behemoth starts its journey west around 321 BC, someone else is watching very, very closely.
Ptolemy down in Egypt, the pragmatist.
The ultimate pragmatist. Ptolemy understands symbolism just as well as Perdiccas. He realizes that body, that prophecy, is worth more than any army or title right now, letting it reach Macedon under Perdiccas' control.
Unthinkable.
He can't let Perdiccas get that ace.
No way. So Ptolemy decides to pull off, well, probably the grandest heist in ancient history.
The theft. How did he even manage it? This thing must have had a massive military escort.
It did. But Ptolemy was clever. He apparently colluded with the commander of the escort, another guy named Aridaeus, confusingly enough, and maybe the local governor in Syria. He used diplomacy, bribes, promises. Who knows exactly? But the result was stunning.
What happened?
The procession reaches Syria. Everyone expects it to turn north, towards Macedon. Instead, it makes a sharp left turn.
Egypt. Towards Egypt, where Ptolemy and his forces are conveniently waiting. They escort the catafalque, body and all, across the desert and install it with great ceremony in Memphis, the old capital of Egypt.
Wow.
Later, it's moved to Alexandria.
Wow. Just wow. He steals Alexander the Great.
He does, and it's more than just grave robbing, though it was certainly that too. It's a political masterstroke of unbelievable audacity. It completely cuts the legs out from under Perdiccas.
How so? What's the immediate impact?
Perdiccas claimed to be the guardian of the empire, the true successor executing Alexander's will. But he couldn't even deliver the king's body to its supposed final resting place. It makes him look impotent, exposes the hollowness of his authority.
Well, Ptolemy looks like, what? The new rightful guardian?
Exactly. By bringing Alexander's sacred remains to Egypt, Ptolemy is implicitly claiming that Egypt is now the true center of power, the land blessed by the conqueror's presence. He's declared de facto sovereignty. He's basically saying, I am the successor here.
Without actually having to declare himself king yet.
Brilliant. Utterly brilliant. And it leaves Perdiccas with absolutely no choice. His authority is fundamentally challenged, his legitimacy shattered. He has to respond with force. Open war is now completely, totally inevitable. Ptolemy's heist was the point of no return.
So Perdiccas is beyond furious, humiliated on a global stage. What's his reaction?
Pure rage, channeled into military action. He musters the main imperial army, the veterans, the elephants, the whole terrifying machine, and marches south to invade Egypt and crush Ptolemy. It's personal now as much as political.
But while he's focused entirely on Ptolemy, things are happening back west, right?
Yeah, that's crucial. His rivals aren't just sitting idle. The old guard Antipater, the regent in Macedon, and Craterus, another top general along with the ever-dangerous Antigonus in Asia Minor, they form a coalition. They see Perdiccas making a power grab, acting like a king, and they decide he needs to be taken down.
So Perdiccas is facing enemies on two fronts, essentially.
Exactly. But Egypt is the immediate decisive theater. Everything hinges on whether he can defeat Ptolemy and reclaim that symbolic legitimacy of the body. And the Nile. Well, the Nile is Ptolemy's greatest ally.
Ptolemy knew this was coming, though. He wasn't caught off guard.
Not at all. He'd used the time brilliantly, fortified the key crossing points of the Nile, especially around Memphis. We hear about sophisticated defenses, artillery. He knew Perdiccas had a huge army that would struggle for supplies if it got bogged down.
And Ptolemy himself was apparently in the thick of it.
Yeah, the sources praise his leadership, leading from the front, fighting personally at crucial points like a strong point called the Camel's Fort. There's even a story, maybe embellished, maybe not, of him blinding a war elephant with a spear to inspire his troops. He projected competence, courage. His men trusted him.
Contrast that with Perdiccas. Things start going wrong for him.
Badly wrong. He tries a direct assault, fails. His army's getting hungry, restless. He's becoming desperate, maybe erratic. So he decides on one last gamble, a surprise night crossing of the Nile near Memphis, 320 BC.
And this turns into an absolute catastrophe.
A horror show. Just complete disaster. First, he misjudges the river's current in flood season. It's way stronger than expected. Hundreds, maybe thousands of his soldiers are just swept away in the darkness, drowned before they even see an enemy.
But it gets worse.
Oh, much worse. The riverbed itself becomes a trap. The disturbance churns up the silt, creating these quicksand-like conditions. Men who aren't swept away get stuck floundering in the mud and water. Helpless.
And then, the crocodiles.
Yeah, that's the detail that sticks with you, the truly visceral horror reported in the accounts. Nile crocodiles, drawn by the commotion and the struggling bodies, they descend on the trapped soldiers,
Oh, God.
tearing them apart. While their comrades on the banks can only watch in terror, we're talking maybe 2,000 men lost in this one failed crossing attempt, drowned, trapped, or eaten alive, before Ptolemy's soldiers even engaged them significantly.
For the Macedonian soldiers who revered Alexander's almost supernatural success at river crossings, this must have seemed like
A divine judgment, absolutely. Alexander mastered rivers. Perdiccas, claiming to be his successor, is utterly defeated by one. The gods themselves, or at least the river gods, seem to be siding with Ptolemy. Morale in Perdiccas' army just evaporates instantly.
the man who used elephants to crush dissent is now watching his men get eaten because he couldn't handle a river.
The irony is brutal, and the consequence is swift. That same night, back in the disastrously failed camp, the senior officers have had enough.
A conspiracy.
Yep, led by figures like Python, Antigonus, and significantly Seleucus. The future empire builder gets his hands dirty here. They walk into Perdiccas' tent.
And that's it for him.
Stabbed him to death. End of story for Perdiccas and his dream of ruling the whole empire. His ambition drowns in the Nile, quite literally.
And Ptolemy's reaction to this, does he swoop in and take command?
This is where Ptolemy shows his political genius again. The next day, he crosses the Nile. not as a conqueror demanding surrender from the now leaderless imperial army. Oh no.
What then?
He arrives as a benefactor. He brings boatloads of food and supplies to the starving, demoralized soldiers who just murdered their commander.
He feeds the mutineers. Wow.
Instantly wins them over. They're grateful, relieved. And then the army, in its desperation, actually offers him the regency, the job Perdiccas just died for.
And Ptolemy.
Publicly, politely declines. He says it's too great a burden, too perilous an honor. He's achieved his goal. His main rival is dead. Egypt is secure. He doesn't need the headache of trying to rule the rest of that fractured mess. The dream of a united empire effectively dies right there, with Perdiccas on the banks of the Nile.
So Perdiccas is out of the picture. The victors need to sort things out again. Where does this happen?
They meet at a place called Troparadisus in Syria, later in 320 BC. It's another attempt to impose order, divide the spoils.
And the new arrangement.
Antipater, the old regent from Macedon who'd opposed Perdiccas, he's confirmed as the new regent of the empire, theoretically over the two kings, the mentally unfit Philip III and the child Alexander I. Ptolemy, naturally, is confirmed in Egypt.
And Seleucus. He helped kill Perdiccas. Does he get rewarded?
He does. He's given the satrapy, the province of Babylon. Which sounds grand, but it's actually quite vulnerable, sandwiched between powerful neighbors. It suggests the others saw him as useful, but maybe not top-tier dangerous yet.
Who comes out best from this reshuffle?
Arguably Antigonus the One-Eyed. He's appointed strategos of Asia, supreme military commander for the whole continent, essentially. His official job is to mop up the remaining Perdiccan loyalists.
Which gives him command of a massive army and huge resources.
Exactly. Perfect springboard for his own ambitions. But the stability is paper thin. It lasts only until the next major figure dies.
Which is Antipater, the new regent.
Right. He dies just a year later, in 319 BC. And his death triggers chaos again, especially because of who he chooses to succeed him as regent.
He doesn't pick his son, Cassander, the one who hated Alexander.
No. In a move that baffled everyone, he passes over Cassander, who's ambitious, ruthless, and capable, in favor of an older, perhaps less threatening general named Polyperchon.
Cassander must have been furious.
Livid. He refuses to accept it. Immediately goes to war against Polyperchon, plunging Macedon and Greece into yet another round of civil war. He allies himself with Antigonus and focuses laser-like on his prize, Macedon.
And we mentioned earlier, his path to securing Macedon involves something truly dark.
Yes, the systematic elimination of Alexander's bloodline, the Argead dynasty.
Why was this necessary in his eyes?
Because as long as a legitimate Argead king existed, even a child like Alexander V, none of these successors could truly be kings themselves. They'd always be, technically, governors or regents ruling for the rightful dynasty. The existence of the boy king was a massive political liability, a potential rallying point for rivals.
So to be truly sovereign, the old line had to go extinct.
That was the brutal logic, and Cassander, perhaps fueled by his personal hatred of Alexander, became the man to do it. He was chillingly methodical.
Who was first?
Alexander's mother, Olympias, a truly formidable woman, politically savvy, ruthless in her own right. She was back in Macedon, trying to protect her grandson, Alexander V's claim. Cassander besieged her, captured her, and had her executed in 316 BC, a huge blow to the royal faction.
Getting rid of the queen mother. What about the actual heirs?
He plays a longer game there. He gets control of Roxana, Alexander's widow, and the young king, Alexander V. He keeps them prisoner for years under his protection, basically uses them as political pawns while consolidating his own power.
But the boy king is growing up.
Exactly. Around 310 BC, Alexander V is approaching adolescence, maybe 13 or 14. Soon, he'd be old enough to theoretically rule in his own right. That's the danger point for Cassander. So he arranges for both Alexander V and his mother Roxana to be secretly poisoned. Gone. Wiped out. The official story might have been delayed or masked as illness, but the political reality was clear.
God, that's cold. Anyone left?
One potential claimant remained. Heracles, Alexander's illegitimate son, by a Persian noblewoman. Cassander deals with this loose end simply by bribing the current guardian, Polyperchon, his old rival, to murder the boy too.
So that's it, the entire line.
Extinct. Every single potential male heir from Alexander the Great is dead. The Argead dynasty, which had ruled Macedon for centuries and conquered the world, is gone forever. Cassander has cleared the board.
And how does he solidify his own claim after all that?
He marries Alexander's half-sister Thessalonike, a connection to the old dynasty, but through marriage, not blood rivalry. And he founds a major new city on the Macedonian coast and names it after her, Thessaloniki, still there today. He built his kingdom quite literally on the graves of Alexander's family. Utterly ruthless political calculus.
Okay, so while Cassander is securing Macedon through, let's call it, extreme measures, what's happening out east with Antigonus the One-Eyed?
Antigonus is just going from strength to strength. He's used his position as strategos of Asia to defeat all his rivals in that vast area. By the late 310s, early 300s BC, he controls pretty much all of Asia Minor, Syria, the Levant. He's built a massive consolidated power block.
He's looking like the most likely candidate to actually reunite the whole empire at this point.
Absolutely. He is the dominant force, but that very dominance becomes his biggest problem. It's the great irony.
How so?
His sheer, overwhelming power forces all the other major players, Ptolemy in Egypt, Cassander in Macedon, Lysimachus, who controls Thrace, and eventually Seleucus, to realize he's an existential threat to all of them individually. If they don't unite against him, he'll pick them off one by one.
So his success basically guarantees a massive coalition will form to take him down.
Precisely. His ambition creates its own antibodies. But Antigonus is also playing the political game expertly. He understands the importance of Greece.
What does he do there?
He issues this grand proclamation declaring all the Greek cities free, autonomous, and ungarrisoned. It's brilliant propaganda.
Aimed at undermining Cassander's control in Greece.
Exactly. He positions himself as the champion of Greek liberty against the Macedonian king Cassander, even though his own goal is total imperial domination. It's pure realpolitik, winning hearts and minds while planning conquest.
And then comes the moment he perhaps pushes too far, 306 BC.
Yes. His son, Demetrius, who earns the nickname Poliorcetes, the Besieger, for his skill in siege warfare, wins a massive, spectacular naval victory against Ptolemy's fleet off the coast of Cyprus.
A huge triumph.
Huge. And Antigonus, riding high on this victory, decides the time is right. He and Demetrius declare themselves Basileus, king.
Not regent, not steward. King.
King. This shatters the final fiction. They're not waiting for Alexander IV, who Cassander had probably already killed secretly anyway. They are claiming the throne by right of conquest and power.
How do the others react?
Immediately. If Antigonus is king, then they must be kings too, to be on equal footing. Within months, Ptolemy, Cassander, Lysimachus, and Seleucus all declare themselves Basileus in their own respective territories.
So Antigonus's move to claim the ultimate title actually just formalizes the breakup of the empire.
Exactly. It officially partitions the empire into rival Hellenistic kingdoms. The dream of unity is dead, replaced by competing royal ambitions.
Okay, let's bring Seleucus back into this. We last saw him getting Babylon after Perdiccas' death, but Antigonus drove him out later, right?
Yes, Antigonus saw him as a threat and forced him out. Seleucus fled to Egypt and actually served under Ptolemy for a while as an admiral in that naval battle Demetrius won. He was in exile.
But he makes a comeback. A pretty spectacular one.
Incredibly spectacular. In 312 BC, Ptolemy, likely wanting to create a diversion for Antigonus, gives Seleucus a tiny force, maybe only 1,000 soldiers, the accounts say.
1,000 men to take back Babylon from the most powerful ruler in Asia. Seems suicidal.
It does. But Seleucus pulls it off. He marches across the desert, gathers support, outmaneuvers Antigonus's governors, and retakes Babylon. It's a stunning military achievement. And 312 BC becomes year one of the Seleucid era, the founding date of his dynasty.
And he doesn't just stop at Babylon.
Oh no, that's just the beginning. He then embarks on this epic 7-year campaign eastward. He's consciously following in Alexander's footsteps, reconquering Persia, Media, pushing into Central Asia, all the way back to the borders of India.
Re-establishing control over those vast eastern territories.
And amassing incredible resources and manpower. But when he gets to India, he finds the situation has changed dramatically since Alexander's time.
How so?
A new unified Indian empire has arisen, the Mauryan Empire, under a very powerful ruler named Chandragupta Maurya.
So Seleucus faces a choice. Another massive war on the far eastern frontier.
Right. A war that would drain his resources just when he knew the final showdown with Antigonus back west was inevitable. Seleucus, like Ptolemy, was a pragmatist when he needed to be.
So he makes a deal.
A landmark deal, a peace treaty. Seleucus agrees to cede the easternmost provinces, the ones hardest to control anyway, like parts of modern Afghanistan and Pakistan, to Chandragupta. It's a huge concession on paper.
But what does he get in return?
Yeah.
This is where the elephants come in, right?
Yeah.
This is the masterstroke. In exchange for the territory, Chandragupta gives Seleucus 500 trained Indian war elephants. 500.
Wow. That's not just a few animals, that's a strategic weapon system.
Exactly. battle-hardened, terrifying war elephants from the best source in the world. This diplomatic triumph, achieved literally on the other side of the known world, gives Seleucus the decisive military edge he needs. Antigonus might have the veteran infantry, but Seleucus now has the shock weapon, the ultimate battlefield disruptor, to counter him. The elephants are the key to everything that happens next.
Okay, so the board is set for the final massive confrontation. Antigonus the One-Eyed, now over 80 years old but still fiercely ambitious, controls Asia Minor and Syria. He's rejected all peace offers. He wants it all.
And the other major players, Lysimachus in Thrace, Cassander controlling Macedon, though he sends troops under Lysimachus, and Seleucus marching back from the east with his new elephant corps, they know this is it. It's do or die. If Antigonus wins this one, the game is over. He becomes the new Alexander.
So they converge. The Battle of Ipsus, 301 BC, in Phrygia, central Anatolia. This is the big one.
Arguably the biggest battle of the entire Hellenistic era, certainly the most decisive in terms of the empire's fate. The scale is just immense.
How big are we talking?
Probably around 80,000 soldiers on each side. Colossal armies for the ancient world. Antigonus has the edge in infantry. His Macedonian phalanx veterans are legendary, the best heavy infantry in the world.
But the coalition has the advantage elsewhere.
Yes. Superior numbers in cavalry, probably around 15,000 combined. And crucially, they have Seleucus's secret weapon, those war elephants. Over 400 of them present on the field. Antigonus has elephants too, but fewer, and probably not the Indian breed.
So the battle kicks off. How does it unfold?
It starts well for Antigonus. His son, Demetrius Poliorcetes, leads the heavy cavalry on their right wing. Demetrius is a brilliant, maybe reckless cavalry commander. He launches this massive charge.
And it works.
Spectacularly. He smashes the allied cavalry opposing him, led by Seleucus's own son, Antiochus. He routs them, drives them clean off the battlefield. A huge initial success.
But there's always a but in these stories.
Always. Demetrius makes the critical, fatal mistake of the battle. He gets caught up in the chase. He pursues the fleeing enemy cavalry too far. He loses contact with the main Antigonid battle line.
So he wins his flank battle,
Yeah.
but takes his best troops out of the main fight at the crucial moment.
Precisely. Meanwhile, in the center, the two massive infantry phalanxes have crashed together. It's a brutal, grinding stalemate. Tens of thousands of men locked in spear-to-spear combat. The Antigonid veterans are slowly starting to push the allied infantry back. Antigonus might actually be winning.
Victory seems close for the old man.
It does. But Seleucus, watching the whole battlefield, sees his chance. He sees Demetrius trying to wheel his victorious cavalry back towards the main fight, aiming to hit the allied infantry flank.
And Seleucus intercepts him.
Not directly with cavalry. He uses the elephants. He unleashes his reserve, maybe 300 or more of the Indian giants. But not in a direct charge against infantry.
What then?
He uses them to form a wall. A living, trumpeting, terrifying barrier of flesh and ivory, deployed rapidly right between Demetrius's returning cavalry and the exposed flank of the main Antigonid phalanx.
A wall of elephants.
Exactly. It's tactical genius. Area denial on a grand scale. Demetrius's cavalry horses, completely freaked out by the sight, sound, and smell of this mass of unfamiliar beasts, refuse to charge. They just won't go near them.
So the best heavy cavalry in the world is completely neutralized, stuck behind an elephant fence.
Completely neutralized. Demetrius is trapped, forced to watch helplessly from a distance as the main battle unfolds disastrously for his father.
What happens to the Antigonid infantry?
They see their cavalry support cut off. They see their flank is now exposed. The allied infantry, probably bolstered by lighter troops and missile fire filtering through the gaps, renews their push. The Antigonid line, the unbreakable veterans, finally starts to buckle, then breaks.
And Antigonus himself, the 81-year-old king.
He's in the center. He refuses to flee, stands his ground, fighting bravely, apparently still looking towards the flank, expecting Demetrius to somehow break through and save the day, reportedly muttering, "Demetrius will come."
But he doesn't.
He doesn't. The old king, the man who never lost a battle before this one, the last real hope for a unified empire, is overwhelmed. Hit by a shower of javelins, he falls dead on the field.
His death must have shattered his army's morale completely.
Instantly. The king is dead, the line is broken, the cavalry is cut off. It turns into a total rout. The Antigonid dream, the possibility of one man ruling Alexander's entire legacy, dies there at Ipsus with Antigonus. It's the definitive end of that ambition.
So Ipsus, the cataclysm. Antigonus is dead, his army shattered. What happens in the immediate aftermath? The carving up of the spoils.
Exactly. The victors, Lysimachus, Seleucus Cassander's representative divide Antigonus's vast Asian territories. Seleucus gets the biggest prize. Northern Syria, Mesopotamia, Persia, basically the bulk of the old Achaemenid heartland. His empire is now geographically the largest.
This is humongous.
He gets most of Asia Minor, adding it to his existing kingdom in Thrace, creating a strong, albeit short-lived, kingdom straddling Europe and Asia.
And Ptolemy. He wasn't actually Ipsus, was he?
No, Ptolemy played it safe, as usual. He stayed down in Egypt, husbanding his resources, but he uses the opportunity. While the others are busy fighting, he marches up and formally annexes southern Syria, also known as Coele-Syria.
Which the others, especially Seleucus, probably thought should belong to them after Ipsus.
Absolutely. Seleucus felt Coele-Syria was rightfully part of the Syrian territories he'd won. Ptolemy, grabbing it, lays the groundwork for literally a century of almost continuous grinding warfare between the Seleucids and the Ptolemies over that one strategic strip of land, the Syrian Wars.
So Ipsus confirms the partition. But you said earlier the failure to unify was actually their greatest success. That sounds paradoxical.
It is deeply ironic, isn't it? Their decades of brutal, destructive civil war, their total failure to recreate Alexander's unified vision, accidentally gives birth to something arguably more dynamic and enduring, the Hellenistic world.
How does that work? How does fragmentation lead to success?
Because instead of one monolithic, perhaps stagnant empire, you get several competing rival kingdoms, the Ptolemaic in Egypt, the Seleucid in Asia, the Antigonid eventually back in Macedon, later the Attalids in Pergamum. These kingdoms are constantly innovating, competing for resources, talent, prestige.
And this competition drives cultural change.
Massively. Greek language, culture, and colonists spread everywhere, but they don't just replace local cultures, they fuse with them. You get Greek cities founded deep in Bactria near modern Afghanistan. You get Alexandria in Egypt becoming this incredible melting pot of Greek, Egyptian, and Jewish thought.
So it's a fusion, not just a conquest.
It's a fusion. You get Koine Greek, a common, simplified Greek becoming the lingua franca from Italy to India, facilitating trade, administration, intellectual exchange on an unprecedented scale. Think of the New Testament being written in Koine Greek centuries later. That's a direct legacy of this period.
And this new world, this interconnected but politically fragmented world, fosters new ways of thinking.
Absolutely. The old certainties of the small Greek city-state are gone. Individuals are now subjects of vast impersonal monarchies. This creates a sort of existential anxiety, a need for new philosophies that focus on personal ethics, inner peace, how to live a good life in a chaotic world.
Like Stoicism and Epicureanism.
Precisely. They boom in this period. And at the same time, royal patronage fuels incredible scientific advances. Think Euclid in Alexandria, standardizing geometry. Think Archimedes in Syracuse, breakthroughs in physics and engineering. It's a period of intense intellectual ferment.
Even religion gets blended.
Yeah, Ptolemy quite deliberately creates the god Serapis, a fusion of the Egyptian Osiris-Apis bull cult with Greek gods like Zeus and Hades, specifically to give his diverse Egyptian and Greek subjects a common deity to worship, tying them to his dynasty. Syncretism as state policy.
So this whole vibrant, complex, anxious, innovative, Hellenistic civilization, it's the direct result of the Diadochi failing to kill each other off quickly enough to establish a single empire.
In a very real way, yes. Their bloody stalemate created the conditions for this new world to emerge. And it's this Hellenistic world, its language, its cities, its philosophy, its science, that Rome eventually inherits and builds upon. It's the foundation for much of Western civilization.
Let's quickly recap the fates of the main players, the founders of these dynasties. Ptolemy.
Ptolemy's Soter, the savior, the ultimate pragmatist. He achieves his goal of securing Egypt, rules wisely, patronizes learning, founding the Library of Alexandria, and dies peacefully in his bed around 282 BC. His dynasty is the most stable, lasting nearly 300 years until Cleopatra VII, a quiet end for the cautious player.
Seleucus, the Vitrificator.
Seleucus Neptator. He wins the biggest chunk of the empire, conquers all the way to India and back. But just as he achieves his final ambition, crossing into Europe in 281 BC to claim the throne of Macedon itself, he's assassinated. By one of Ptolemy's disgruntled sons, ironically, struck down at the very peak of his power.
And Cassander, the killer of kings.
His dynasty in Macedon, built on such brutality, proves very unstable. It collapses quite quickly after his death. But here's the final twist of fate.
Go on.
Remember Antigonus the One-Eyed, killed at Ipsus? His grandson, Antigonus II Gonius, eventually manages to outmaneuver everyone else and seize the throne of Macedon around 276 BC.
So the Antigonid dynasty, the one that lost the war for the whole empire, ends up ruling the Macedonian heartland in the end.
Exactly. History has a dark sense of humor sometimes. The descendants of the man who dreamed biggest and failed most spectacularly ended up ruling Alexander's original kingdom.
So we've traced this incredible arc, from Alexander's deathbed in Babylon, that ambiguous command, to the strongest.
Through 40 years of absolutely vicious, cutthroat politics and warfare, assassinations, betrayals, the Nile disaster, the epic clash at Ipsus.
It was an age where survival, let alone success, demanded unbelievable intelligence like Ptolemy's, or utter ruthlessness like Cassander's, or maybe just sheer adaptability and resilience like Seleucus.
These men all started out wanting the same thing, really. They wanted to be the next Alexander, to hold that unified empire. They were willing to betray lifelong friends, murder children, slaughter armies to get it.
And yet their ultimate legacy, the thing that truly lasted, wasn't the empire they failed to recreate. It was the entirely new world, the diverse, interconnected, brilliant, but also deeply anxious Hellenistic civilization that they accidentally built precisely because they failed. Because none of them could deliver the knockout blow.
Which leaves us and you with a fascinating final thought to chew on. Does real, lasting historical success often look completely different from the original, often bloody ambition that set everything in motion? When grand plans collapse, can the wreckage sometimes build something even more significant?